Welcome to Our Hen House. This is Marianne Sullivan.
And this is Jasmine Singer.
And on this week's show, Jasmine will be chatting with Amy Luebbert, who is doing some really remarkable vegan advocacy in Des Moines, Iowa. And a lot of us actually don't look to Iowa for leading edge vegan advocacy. Obviously, it's a huge animal ag state. And if that's you, and I worry sometimes that that's me, but then I yell at myself, because this interview will definitely turn your head around and remind all of us that we are everywhere, and progressive action for animals is growing by leaps and bounds everywhere. And she and Jasmine will also be talking about VegLife Des Moines, the organization that she founded, and about her new enterprise, a vegan sex shop. So you definitely want to stay tuned. This is a good one, right, Jasmine?
So good. First of all, I love Amy. Like, we've become friends in the past year or so. And I just, like, when I think of who is a great activist, she is one of the first few people that pops to mind. And I know that she's already listening. If she's listening to this, she's like already shaking her head and saying no and like blushing and putting her head in a bag. But that's like, she'll have to deal with that. This is a phenomenal interview. And I love the work she's doing in Des Moines. It's just so cool. Yeah. So we'll be getting to that soon. But before we do, I know that I have previously been described as salty, and now I have even more reason to be considered salty.
I am not sure what it means when you call somebody salty, I will admit. What does that mean?
I think it means like you've got an edge and you're a little biting and like a little sarcastic.
I can see that. I'm surprised I'm not more frequently described as salty then.
Okay, I hope that she doesn't mind that I'm about to say this, but I was hanging out with Krista the other day, Krista Neiman, who's a flock member and a friend, and she said that her roller derby name would be Salty Subtext. I love that. I'm sorry if please no one take that because it's Krista's. She trademarked it already. That's not true, but I'm sure by now she has. Anyway, so salty. I was so salty the other day because guess what I did?
You went to a salt room. I know what you did.
I did. Yeah, I went to a salt room, and I'm curious if people are listening to this and you've been to a salt room. I really want you to tweet at me and tell me what you thought of it.
I have never been to a salt room.
So on Twitter, I'm Jasmine_Singer, and there's no E on Jasmine. So you haven't, but I might just take you this week because it is basically a room that is sort of dim lighting, and it's very relaxing. You sit in this long chair, and then they put this like machine on, and salt comes like through the vents. It's just light mist. You don't see it. Though eventually I licked my lips and I was like, my lips are so salty. And then I licked my arm. I was like, where's the margarita? All right. That joke, by the way, where's the margarita? It came from my friend Rosemary.
Yeah, no, that is a good joke. And I know you want me to do this and you want to bring me to this. To me, it just seems like, well, in the first place, when you talk, the salt comes in through the air. I'm picturing you in a sandstorm, only it's made out of salt.
It's not. No, it's not. It's supposed to be good for breathing.
But what is it? Like, doesn't it raise your blood pressure? I try so hard not to have salt. And here you are like exposing yourself to enormous quantities of sodium chloride.
So if you breathe it in, it's like, it's almost like a saline solution, like that you might do in a neti pot, for example.
I did a neti pot once and I've never experienced such excruciating pain. I've never done it again. It was I'm not kidding, the worst pain I've ever experienced.
I know the story, but anyway, I found it wonderful. I read my book. I meditated. I breathed in through my nose.
You do know that I hate to meditate.
I do know you do. You don't have to meditate. You could just sit there and breathe.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Okay, it's supposed to be good for anxiety and pain as well, and breathing issues. So
I certainly have those.
Don't knock it till you try it, is all I'm saying. And this place that I'm going to also has a flotation room, or many flotation rooms, which I used to do that when I lived in Santa Cruz, obviously.
Yeah,
when in
Santa
Rome.
Cruz.
Right. And I wasn't a huge fan of it. It's basically a sensory deprivation tank, which like the water that you go in, which is just like a couple inches deep, is loaded with salt, and the same temperature as your body temperature, and you close out all other lights and sounds, and you're basically in this like protected space that is sort of evokes being in utero. And it's supposed to just be a little bit, it feels like you're on drugs, honestly. And I wasn't, I swear.
I have always thought that being in utero must have been unbelievably claustrophobic. Like the thought of it. Oh my God.
Oh my God, Marianne, I have to tell you something that I totally forgot to tell you. It's not on our notes. I got a DM from someone, and I'm sorry for the person who sent me this DM. I haven't actually replied yet because I forgot, but I will reply. So I was a guest on the Sentient Media podcast last week, and one of the things I talked about was like the planet and my fear and anger around climate destruction. And this person wrote to me and she said she usually listens to our Hen House, and she didn't realize that I had such strong feelings because she realized that I'm frequently the counterpoint to your doomism. And she's like, now I understand.
I'm so dark. I make you look
and
light.
She's like, now I understand that you feel that way too. You're just trying to sort of bring Marianne out or something. For like,
I can assure everybody, Jasmine's pretty dark. She's just not quite as dark as I am. So I don't know whether it's a good thing that people see you as more cheery than you are or a bad thing, but I'm sorry.
I don't know. I have hope. I choose to, all that.
All right. I've been thinking a lot about our conversation, which we've had several times on the podcast, about hope and how it's kind of we use it as a tool. And I heard somebody say, can't remember who it was an environmental activist in California who is very famous and is now dying. And he was saying the things that motivate activism, it's not hope, it's love and anger. And I was thinking more about that. And I think that's really true. But I think there are this is my conclusion for the moment, two fundamental human emotions, and everything else grows out of them. And one is love. We are all capable of love. And the other is envy. And that's the darker side. And like anger grows out of the love because we're angry because those that we love are being harmed. And greed grows out of envy. Like people wouldn't want all this crap if it wasn't that they wanted to be better than everybody else. I don't know why I brought that up, but that's where I am right now. Humans, it's all about love and envy. And it's too much about envy and not enough about love.
I really love that. I envy you for being the one to talk about it.
See?
Mm-hmm. No, it's genuinely really good. Like really good. I'm going to wrap my head around that. Thank you so much for sharing that. But I am going to go to the flotation room again in a couple of weeks. I'm going to try it again. So I'll report back on whether I have changed enough to like that experience. Speaking of things we've been doing lately, since you haven't joined me yet in a salt room, and I doubt you will ever go into a flotation room, what have you been doing?
No way. Okay. Well, I've been trying. I've talked about this in the past, and I know I'm not very successful at it. And I now have a tiny little backyard. It's truly tiny, but I would like to make it a little better than it is. When I moved in, I thought it was grass, and I gradually realized as and then it was winter, and then the snow melted, and I gradually noticed it's about half grass and half weeds. At this point, I'm just letting it grow because I think the weeds look better than they do when they're mowed. But what I want to do is plant native plants. If you listen to the podcast, I've always fancied myself as somebody who would have this native plant garden. So I went to this native plant nursery. It was in the middle of nowhere. It was like an hour from Rochester. And if you know anything about Western New York, like an hour is a long way. So you're really in the country by then. And they had all of these beautiful native plants. And so I bought a few. The woman there was lovely. She told me a million, and this one does this, and this one does that. And so I just picked 4. I picked one because it was called Gay something. And I said, okay, I'm gay. If the plant's gay, I'll get that one. So I'm going to try to plant them. But I also I kind of have like this illusion that I'm going to get rid of there's good weeds and there's bad weeds. There's weeds that are local plants. I have no problem with them. And I mentioned her of bindweed. For you non-gardeners, this might be getting a little boring, but for you gardeners out there, bindweed is this horrible, horrible plant. And I hate killing plants, but I love killing bindweed. And she basically said there's no way to get rid of it. You could like blow up your backyard. She didn't suggest that, but and it's not going to get rid of bindweed. But that's my project for the moment. I will keep you updated. I am going to try to plant a little tree and a little pond. I'm putting in a little pond. I'm kind of excited about it and kind of scared. So that's my gardening story.
Fascinating. Well, I think that you have a really adorable backyard, and I enjoy going to it and having little get-togethers there and doing little barbecues and stuff. Our backyard is in much more of a disarray than yours currently because of doing geothermal. It has been difficult to level the yard and all the things afterwards. So I like to live vicariously through yours.
No, I love it when people come over to my backyard, as long as they can put up with the fact that I don't mow it.
So if you're listening to this and you know what to do about bindweed, tweet at Marianne. It's at Marisul, Marisul, like the beginning of Marianne and the beginning of Sullivan.
And I would suggest if now that I've learned about bindweed, if you know something to do about bindweed, you have millions of dollars in your future because nobody has any idea what to do about it.
So I mentioned Marisul, Sullivan, quite the Irish name that is. Let's talk about Ireland.
Oh, you want to talk about this story that I found in Plant-Based News? Yeah. And this has to do with a subject we've talked about before, the failure in the U.S. of the McPlant. That's McDonald's Beyond Meat burger that they've tried out in I think it was Missouri, but I don't want to swear to that. And they decided it doesn't work and they're not going to keep going. But apparently, according to this story, McDonald's Ireland delighted with McPlant demand. So why are U.S. sales dwindling? And apparently it's doing great in Ireland. And so that brings up the question of why. For one thing, apparently, I'm not sure whether they have vegan cheese, but you don't have to. It says, unlike the UK version, the US McPlant was not suitable for vegans. It contained American dairy cheese and egg-based mayonnaise. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a total deal killer. I mean, you can order it special, but you're limiting your vegan audience. And let's face it, that's not the audience they want to reach. They want to reach a mainstream audience. But when they're starting out, it helps to be able to appeal to the vegans who will kind of keep you going while you're establishing yourself. But the real problem, they mentioned that they offered it in 600 restaurants. And according to this article, a lot of those restaurants were in small towns. You got to put it in the city. Plant-based, if you drive through small towns, it's rare you will find anything vegan. It's just veganism is a lot more popular and you reach a lot more people. So you get that percentage of them who care about not just the vegans, but who care about plant-based eating, who are more environmentally really open to it. I've contended all along that somebody at McDonald's stuck it to the McPlant on purpose. But apparently that didn't work in Ireland. So they're planning on moving on to Australia. Again, in Australia, they're not going to be offering vegan mayonnaise and cheese. So you'd have to order it special, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, I don't feel the need to go to McDonald's to eat, but if we can switch what McDonald's is selling, we'll have a huge, huge, huge impact. And Burger King's doing great, apparently, with their Impossible Burger.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend the other day. You were there actually, and he was saying that he can't stop going to Burger King because he's like, even if I buy the pack of Impossible Burgers from Wegmans, he's like, it's still more expensive than going through Burger King, and he's like, it's just so easy and so good. Then you have to cook it. So anyway, yeah, I totally agree.
If they were as healthy as we wish they were, I would live on them.
So would my cat. My God.
Yeah, she is an enthusiast. You should get her in an ad for Impossible Burgers.
I know.
So she could make a lot of money.
I'm sure they're looking for the right cat right now. I'm positive.
Yeah, they're really going for the cat audience.
Yeah, I'm sure that's their marketing strategy. Amy has a lot of cats. I mean, not a lot, but her cats are just darling. I see them on Zoom when I Zoom with her, and I love them and she loves them, and she is just a wonderful human being. And she is our guest today. So let's get to that.
And I am excited. I am excited that everybody's going to be able to hear this interview. Amy Luebbert is a queer, vegan, anti-racist activist in Des Moines, Iowa. In 2017, Amy founded VegLife Des Moines, a nonprofit with a mission to connect and grow the local community around veganism and anti-oppression. She is currently working towards opening a liberated sex shop because all bodies deserve pleasure, acceptance, comfort, and joy. And she will be joining Jasmine right after this.
I'm Miyoko Schinner of Miyoko's Creamery, and today I want to share my love story with you. But first, I want to let you know that you can get 15% off your next order at miyokos.com with offer code HENHOUSE15. Growing up, my father and I would travel to faraway places in search of cheese. Ripe cheese, stinky cheese, velvety, soft cheese. It was an obsession we bonded over. Our shared love for cheese took me to France, Italy, and nearby Sonoma. As I got older, my tastes remained the same, but my values changed. I became a true lover of animals, not as ingredients, but as living beings. In those days, there was no way to satisfy both my palate and my soul, so I started making cheese myself by culturing plant milks instead of animal milks. Through trial and many errors, through the noise of naysayers, and through a commitment to compassion and craft, I made something I love, and I'm here to share it with you, for you to share with your loved ones. At Miyoko's Creamery, we craft the finest plant milk dairy products in the world, right here in the heart of California's famed wine region, Sonoma. Through our craft, plant milk, cheese, and butter, we honor traditional dairy-making methods while finding novel ingredients with nature's bounty. The food we make is made of love for the planet, for all living beings, and for you. With love, Miyoko. 15% off your next order at miyokos.com with offer code HENHOUSE15.
Welcome to our hen house, Amy.
Hello, hello. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited. I've been really looking forward to talking to you because in addition to following your work and really admiring you, I am so honored to be your friend. So it's always like funny to interview a friend, but I love it too.
I know. I'm like, Jasmine's my bud. So this is exciting. Thank you for having me and
thank you for all the work that you
lovely
do.
Friend.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And just consider this a chat between two buddies with a few people maybe listening in as we drink our soy lattes. First question, is it a soy latte you would drink or an oat latte or something else?
I know this isn't going to land well with you, but I'm an oat latte. I know you're a soy.
I'm drinking a soy latte right now, actually.
I know. You're team soy. I'm not team soy. I just really enjoy my oat lattes.
So I'm not team oat for the record. Don't you wish politics was this easy?
Good luck.
Exactly. All right, Amy, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. You are very active in a number of social justice movements, particularly anti-racism and animal rights. So before we dig in, from 1,000 feet high, how would you describe the overarching motivation behind all of them? Like, what gets you up in the morning besides your oat latte?
I think it's a desire to see equity and to see people being able to live their lives. And in people, I include animals into people.
Me too.
To let everyone live as they'd want to live, and to have the resources that they need, or to have what they want, to have joy and to have family if they want, to whatever that looks like for them, to have peace and to be able to be who they are. I think that's really what motivates me, is just to have folks be able to, and by folks, again, animals included, to have people be able to live their lives the way they want to live, and not without any sort of limitations based on whether that's white supremacy limiting you or animal injustices that are happening.
That's like my favorite answer that anyone's ever given in the history of our hen house, honestly. Because if someone asked me that question, I'd be like, I just don't think people should be on the other end of violence. But I love that you kind of turned it on its head in this sort of positive way. Like, everyone deserves the right to just... Right isn't even the right word, is it? Because right is something that like a group of power gives a marginalized group. So well done. I love it. That is beautiful. Oh, God, I have so many things I want to talk to you about. How do you account for the fact that animal rights are so often ignored by people who care about social justice? I mean, not to ask you like the big question that every single person listening to this wonders about all the time, but why? Why are animal rights ignored?
Well, I think that there's a general disregard and a lack of seeing them as equal on our playing field as humans. There's the domination of humans over animals that I think a lot of people, even in the social justice, fighting for human rights, are just having a hard time seeing that because of our culture, because of the way our culture is indoctrinating people into this idea of that animals are less than us. Some of them we care about, right? We care about our cats and our dogs, horses, maybe, these are animals that we care more about. But when it comes to other animals, especially those in the farmed animals segment, that those animals are generally disregarded. And I think it's just hard for folks to overcome that, even though they have this justice mindset. I think there is opportunities when you work within coalition with people and you bring these beliefs into those spaces that people can hear more. They're more open to listening to you. If you are actively engaged in a movement to fight for human rights with them, they may be more open to hearing about injustices towards animals. I wish it wasn't necessarily the case. It does feel like it could be a great opportunity for people to come together to have more power around our anti-oppression work. But it's currently just, I think it's the way our culture is set up. It is a very dominant thing that oppression is towards animals is just very okay. It is just a very okay thing for people to do. And it's a second thought, and it's seen as a second, like they're second class citizens, So that citizens isn't a great word to use, but a second class group of people, the animals. So I think it's just breaking that mindset, but people think that it's more valuable to spend time towards human rights. And I certainly spend a lot of my time, the majority of my time working in human rights as well. And I think that it's without ending white supremacy, I don't think that we will ever end animal oppression. So I think that we have to be fighting for the end of white supremacy.
Right, because I could ask that exact question, but about racism. I mean, I just was asking you, how do you account for the fact that animal rights are so often ignored by people who care about social justice? But how do you account for the fact that racism is ignored by people who care about animals?
Absolutely, which is happening all of the time. There's this idea that if you are vegan, that you are somehow morally superior and that you don't have any racial bias or racism inside of you, which if you are raised in the United States, and especially if you are a white person, that this is something that you are going to be grappling with for your entire life. White supremacy lives inside of you. And so if you're not actively thinking about that and working to be anti-racist in your everyday life, then you are not doing justice towards the animals, and you are certainly not doing justice towards humans.
1,000,000,000%. So, Amy, I know this is a complicated question, but you were an important part of Encompass until it folded recently. That's actually how we originally connected. Can you tell us why you felt the work Encompass was doing was important and maybe how you would like to see it continue?
So I think that the work was really important, is still very important, that it kind of had a twofold factor. The way that I describe it is there were spaces that were exclusively for people of the global majority to connect, to gain skills, to share resources, to be in community. And I think that's really important within our animal movement because of the fact that there are a lot of white-led spaces that are not inclusive, are very much perpetuating white supremacy beliefs and ideologies. And so those spaces are not safe for folks of color. And I think that that was a very important piece. And I'm really delighted that that's continuing under Apex with Brielle Ringer. So folks should check that out if you haven't heard about that before. But that work will continue. And I'm super grateful that that's continuing. And then the other piece of the coin was that we were working on those white-led organizations, financial fundraiser type folks as well, donors, to say, let's start chipping away at that white supremacy within your organizations through trainings, through education, through really relationship building. And that's the piece that I think will now be left to those organizations to carry on their own. And the hope is that they do. And there was a blog posted with some recommendations for folks. So hopefully people will check that out. There's the research report that was launched earlier this year. And of course, the book that folks can use as a resource as well. So I think that's the work that that is critical, that does need to continue, is white folks doing the work of breaking down that white supremacy within their organizations, within themselves, and hopefully they'll have access to do that.
It's always a little shocking when an organization dissolves, especially when it's an organization that we care so much about collectively. So I'm sure that you've gone through the ringer of emotions and feelings, and you probably still are, when an organization that you've invested so much time and energy into dissolves. It's loss. It's a big loss. Is there like a overall sort of takeaway that you have carried with you that you will bring with you to your next endeavors?
Definitely. Yeah. I think that for me, this really showed me that even within a space where we are actively working on trying to be anti-racist, that white supremacy traits show up within those spaces and have to be reckoned with. And no space is safe, if you will. And so I think me moving into any space moving forward will be extra diligent and extra mindful and really challenging those traits and characteristics that I see, or times when racism comes up, that it has taught me to be more vigilant, if that's even in spaces that are claiming to be anti-racist.
That's a tough pill to swallow. And I think it's something that a lot of people who have worked in social justice could probably relate to. I mean, we've all been in situations, I've certainly been in a couple situations where I thought that I was working in a space where everyone would be sort of like show up in their most woke self. And I was repeatedly kind of like, oh, not only is this not happening around me with my colleagues, but I started to recognize ways that I wasn't showing up to the best of my ability and my like sort of highest consciousness. So, I mean, that's something that I'm really grateful that there are people like you and Brielle who are continuing to put this work out there. And I'm grateful to the resources that still exist. So we'll be sure to link to all of those relevant resources on the show notes for this episode. So let's switch gears and we'll certainly touch back on anti-racist work, because I know it is very much entrenched in the all of the justice work that you do. Tell us about VegLife Des Moines.
Yeah, so VegLife Des Moines started in 2017. It's a nonprofit that's based obviously here in Des Moines, Iowa. And it's really about connecting folks around community that are interested in veganism or anti-oppression work. And we started with a humble set of potlucks in a church, and one year we hosted an event counter to a bacon fest. So that's a popular event here in the middle of Iowa. And we wanted to say there's another way, right? That there are other options, that you don't have to support that industry. And we thought maybe 100 people might come. And 800 people came and crammed into a space that was not built for 800 people. And we were like, wow, this is more people are interested in this than we thought. And that's how VegLife Des Moines decided to become an actual nonprofit, is from having that wonderful turnout back in 2017. And since then, we've hosted a myriad of events, including large vegan fests, educational events. At this point, we're doing a vegan summer market series that's happening once a month, every month. And really, since the pandemic, we have been doing outdoor type events, as our team is still very concerned about spreading the COVID. And we do tend to, at our potlucks, get about 100 people to come to those before the pandemic. And so we just don't feel that that's safe to continue to do indoors. So we host outdoor events at this point. But yeah, it's really about bringing people together. And what's different maybe about how we're operating is that we're not doing quote unquote normal vegan outreach. We don't necessarily do that. What we're doing is creating a space where people feel welcomed and feel that because it's Iowa, we have a space where we're few and far between, where there's not as many vegans or vegan curious folks here in the Midwest. We're certainly growing in numbers, but it is possible to feel lonely, to feel isolated, to not feel like you have anyone that supports you. And so for me, it really felt like the key thing to keeping people interested, engaged, and caring about continuing their veganism was to create this space where they felt like they had a community of people that cared about them, that was looking out for them, and was able to share resources and information. So really about creating community around it. But of course, everyone is always welcome at our events. We don't You don't have to be vegan to come.
There's not like a survey when you get it. They're like, how much do you know about this? What is this? It's such a station queen.
No.
Where's your vegan club card? You didn't get one? Oh, so what is your target audience? The veg curious?
Yeah, and even the vegans. I would say vegans, veg curious, people related. We have a lot of folks that might have a family member who's vegan. They're not vegan, so they come to us for resources, or they wanted to bring their loved one to the market or to this event. So I think we end up reaching a lot of different people, but in general, our market is people who are curious about that eating vegan or being vegan.
What kind of resources do you provide on your website? And can you tell us what your website is?
Yes, it's VegLifeDesMoines.org. And we have a myriad of resources. There's like some of our favorite cookbooks, some YouTube channels. We have resources about local doctors that are vegan friendly. We have restaurant guide for Des Moines and our events, of course.
Very cool. I love it so much. So, and you mentioned some of the services that you're providing for new vegans and for vegan curious folks, like grocery store tours and restaurant support and vegan mentoring. So, like, what's the brain power behind that? Is it like you? Is it the folks who run the group with you? Like, I'd love to know how these ideas start and how they get implemented.
Yeah. So we are a nonprofit, so we do have a board that is working on these ideas together. So, for example, like if somebody were to come through for the vegan mentoring and ask for mentoring, it would be based on what type of information they're looking for. If they're looking for nutrition information, I'm not your guy. Like I that's not my expertise. So I'm going to reach out to somebody in the community I know who has that background and match them with that person. So everything we do is volunteer based. It's all community led. And so different people are jumping in to sort of support different people based on that. Otherwise, the events that we bring, like one of the events we do it's called Trunk or Treat. And I realize people outside of the Midwest maybe don't know what that is. It's a thing where you park your car and you give treats out of the trunk of your car at Halloween.
Oh my God, I love that.
And if you're a kid, like think about, like when I was a kid, I wasn't vegan. So I have memories of Halloween and enjoying Halloween. And now I think it would be a sad affair because you'd go around and get all this candy that you can't eat. So we create this space and we usually have about 80 kids come through and we have, these vegan, like 30 different adults volunteer to have vegan treats out of the back of their car. And these kids come through with their costumes and it's freaking adorable. But like, is that vegan outreach? I don't know, but it's creating a space where these vegan kiddos can have an experience where it's kind of normalizing that, vegan Halloween could be a thing. So I love that event. And it came from a parent asking like, hey, would you ever consider doing this? Because Halloween really stinks as a vegan family. So we created it and we've done it 2 years in a row. We're planning on bringing it back this year. So.
And it's also a way to take care of the advocates too. Cause it's not just the people we're reaching out to, but it's the people who are doing the outreach. So it sounds like really fun and like a good energy and a good time.
Yeah, oh, it's so fun. And kids, the costumes, love it.
So cute. Yeah. So you mentioned you've done veg fests in the past. I know it's weird times with COVID, and I know you and I are on the I would say more terrified side of getting it. Do you intend to continue the veg fests?
So that's really interesting. I have planned 3 now, and they take a really long time and they take a lot of your energy. And I've debated if a veg fest is something that a one-day event that happens for only a few hours, and you dedicate all of these hours and resources. For us, it was also a huge financial lift. We're spending, 3 times as much on a veg fest as compared to these vegan markets. And I guess for me, I'm not sure they'll come back with my support. I certainly would volunteer at one or be a friend to one that happens in Des Moines, but I'm not sure that VegLife Des Moines would do one just because of the expense and the resources that it takes. And I think that these markets actually are more casual. They are more frequent. They have a similar vibe. I guess I just think they're probably not coming back under VegLife Des Moines at this time.
Mm-hmm. When I record these interviews, they're on video, even though we're only airing the audio. And I just kind of want to tell our listeners that, as you said, most of that answer, you were behind a cat butt. So can you tell us who that was that just made an appearance on the video?
Of course, I would love to tell you. That was Norman. He's just the most charming and cute cat you could ever possibly adore. He's lived in my house now for a year, adopted from a lovely rescue.
Aw. And who are your other family members in your house?
Sure, I've got Ethel and Tui. They're all cats. And Ethel and Norman are bio brother and sister. I got them as a bonded pair. It's so cute.
Oh, I love that. So, okay, I just needed to talk about the cats because it's too cute. Okay, so what are your strategies for bringing in new people? Or do you have strategies? Is it just kind of like presence? Like, oh, there's the Veg Des Moines group again. Like, or is there a specific brain power around how to bring others in so that it doesn't wind up feeling like a vegan club?
Oh, yeah. So we've been really lucky. We've had some local media that has promoted the vegan summer market, which I think brings in lots of new people. It's also in a really interesting location right across, it's downtown and across the street from a civic center, which is where we have local plays. So like Hamilton was playing during our first one. So I think people saw us, walked through and were like, what's happening? So it's definitely in a space where people are curious and walking through. We also had a new person move into the community here and has elected to be our brand ambassador. So they are sharing VegLife Des Moines everywhere they go. And I love that for human. And I think it's great because they're new to town and they see us as a great resource and they want to find other people who aren't connected and make sure they're connected.
So I have a question for you that I'm not entirely sure how to word, kind of going back to your anti-racist work. And I know that, you know, as also an anti-racist activist, it is very much embedded in how I approach everything. But do you have any examples of how you blend the two through the work with the Des Moines group? Or is that too amorphous of a question?
So we definitely are thinking about and engaging in anti-racism work as a board. So this is something that we talk about a lot in terms of examples are that the venue that we chose for this event doesn't require a police presence. That's really important to me to not have a police presence at events. And so we will always, with my direction, would be at an event or at a venue that doesn't have a police presence. We also really think about accessibility and transportation needs for venues, but also in our vendor selection. So when we are thinking about what vendors we want, or we have an application process, but not everyone makes the cut. And usually if you don't make the cut, it's because we feel that your values aren't in line with ours. And a recent example of that is somebody who is selling products that are from a women's collective in the country of Morocco. They're selling them here in Des Moines. And you know, that has the potential to be either good or bad. And so we did our due diligence to chat with that business owner to really understand where they're coming at that, to look at their past social media, to look at any media presence that they had, and to really ask them questions about how their whiteness, because this was a white woman here in Des Moines market, and ask them questions around how is their whiteness showing up in this and how are they breaking down the power dynamic between the U.S. white person and the Black women of Morocco. And unfortunately, they aren't in a space right now where they have considered those things. And so we felt that was problematic. And, you know, for us, we are not going to just have vendors at events that don't align with our values. And so we educated, we sent multiple articles about different things. It offered to talk more about it, to really dig in with them. You know, and we just ultimately decided they weren't a good fit. And that's not the first time. You know, we've done this countless times, not countless, maybe a handful of times where we've had to tell vendors that this isn't a good fit. And so we really tried to uphold those values in the way that we do events and have events. We also, as part of our vegan summer market, we have a cool thing where we asked the community to donate items. Like maybe you've got some kitchen gadgets, you've got some vegan t-shirts, maybe you got some anti-racism books, anything like this. And we have a little thrift store at our table, and any of the people buy the items for whatever they want. So this brings a bit of economic justice to our market. So you can afford, you know, if you want this cookbook or you want this t-shirt or sticker or vase, art, whatever. You pay whatever you can for it. And then the money is all going back to 6 different organizations here in Des Moines that are working in the human rights field. And so we are hoping to raise $3,000 this year to give each organization $500, which maybe doesn't sound significant to other folks, but our budget is pretty small, and that's a big significant portion. So we're trying to incorporate things like this as well.
Oh, I love it. Very specific examples too that I think other groups can replicate. So what is the vegan scene like in Des Moines? I know that people who are sort of aware of it or pop around in it have probably seen you show up. Like, you're like, where's Waldo? Like, where's Amy in the vegan scene?
Oh, yes. You might be referring to the fact that I work for 2 vegan establishments right now, and we only have a total of 3.
When are you starting at the 3rd, Amy? My goodness.
Oh, wait, we do have more. We have one non-food one, of course, too. So yes, the vegan scene in Des Moines is charming. I'm not sure how to describe this. At this point, I mean, so I do think that we have a lot. If you come to Des Moines, you will be able to eat and enjoy your life. Like, I don't want to make it sound like that. But in terms of like dedicated vegan spaces, we certainly are on the low end of that right now. But we're hopeful that more things will come, of course, in the future. I think that there's a lot of people interested in it and curious about it. It's, we are a state that has we are the number one producer of, and I'm not saying that in a great way, number one producer of chickens. We have 60 million chickens living in Iowa, and we have 25 million pigs living in Iowa. I mean, we only have 3 million humans here. So we are outnumbered by animal agriculture by a lot. And so our scene is both somber and joyful. Like, we are living within this state of pretty terrible animal agriculture happening. Well, very terrible animal agriculture happening here. But also we have this community of people that have come together to really like uplift ourselves because of this circumstance. And I think that is why we have this like really special community feel, because we have this surrounding narrative that is death to all these animals. And so we really have needed to cling to each other. So I think so that means that we're supporting those vegan businesses, we're showing up for them, we're promoting them. I mean, the only thing I'm really missing, Jasmine, vegan donuts. Where are my gosh darn vegan donuts? I would be remiss to not try to advocate for some freaking vegan donuts to get here in Des Moines. I'm not kidding you. Right now, you cannot get yourself, you could buy a Whole Foods donut, but to me, a cake donut is not a donut.
Right.
It's not a donut.
I feel that. I agree with that. I mean, I think we're on the same page there as well. Wow. Iowa is a really extraordinary place to be doing vegan advocacy because of the power of animal agriculture in the state and the number of factory farms. Do you have a vision of post-animal agriculture Iowa? Like, what does that look like?
Wouldn't that be beautiful? So in addition to also like raising all these animals and murdering them, we also have just fields and fields and fields of corn and soybeans, which are going towards feeding these animals or feeding your gas tank through ethanol. We love making corn for ethanol. So I think that what I see as the next steps of what we need to have happen is really a government transition of farmland and farmers. Like, we need to be giving resources to farmers. I don't think we can expect that farmers will do this on their own independently when your income is tied to this and we live in a capitalist society. I don't think that that's a fair thing for us to ask. My grandparents were farmers, my uncles are farmers. Like, I don't think that we are in a space where we can expect that. And that's fair. So we need, at a government level, we need programs that are helping the farmers transition. And wouldn't it be beautiful if instead of soy for animals, we were growing soy for humans, or we're growing oats for humans and having, instead of monocrop culture, polycrop culture? Like, we can do this. It's definitely possible. It just needs to be incentivized by, I believe, the government.
Oh, that is super interesting. I totally agree with you. It's really sad to me when I'm passing all of the corn, and I remember, I've taken the train across the country a couple times, and I like when I'm in the middle, I'm like, this is all I'm seeing, out the window. It's just, I know it's for the animals to eat, and it's a little heartbreaking. Like, where do you put it all, especially doing the work you do in Iowa? How do you stay sane?
Yes. Am I?
Okay.
Maniacal laugh. No,
we can move on.
No. Okay. So for me, my grounding techniques are to have deep relationships with people that I care about, to be able to talk about issues that are really important to me. So a lot of my friends both encompass animal rights and both anti-racism. I also am involved in community action so that I don't feel hopeless, that there are other people standing up for the same things that I believe in. And I have my cats that I love. And then if I could just get some vegan donuts, that maybe would help me. If you're listening and you know how to make vegan donuts, please come to Des Moines and make me vegan donuts.
I mean, it's a good opportunity for another food truck, and Amy could probably work there.
I would work for you, and I would host events where you can come and bring your food truck. So I'm often giving you publicity. So
perfect.
Please come.
Switching gears, how do you feel about the red state, blue state division? Like, aren't most states different shades of purple?
Iowa used to certainly be a purple state, if that's what you're referring to, but we are now fully in the red zone. We are a red state. Our governor and both houses of our Iowa legislation are Republican and very, what are we calling that wave of Republicans? the very, like, we are trying to ban books here in Iowa. We are also legislating people's bodies around abortion. We are legislating around trans bodies as well, that trans girls cannot play in sports. There are so many. We have a stand your ground laws that you could use gun violence against other people if you feel threatened, which as a predominantly white state is incredibly dangerous because white people feel threatened by Black people for no reason because of our culture of white supremacy. And so these are very dangerous times that we are living in. And I think that the legislation, our legislation is terrible here.
And yet, when I was trying to campaign for you to move to Rochester, which is the cult that I lead, I try to move queer vegans to Rochester. You said no because you wanted to stay there because why?
Well, I definitely have a very strong community here. And while it is tempting for all of us who are able to leave, there is some sense of I should stay and fight the fight. And that there are fights everywhere, though. So, like, even in Rochester, you're fighting for things.
There's a lot. There's
right.
a lot of racial injustice here. There's a lot to fight here, for sure. There are vegan donuts, though.
Right. So, like, there's... I'm not saying it's forever, but for now, I do feel a connection to this community. And I think that there is work happening that is hopefully making change in our state.
And I fully respect that. I feel like I asked the question a little oddly. I just kind of was interested in your perspective of what it's like to be in a place like Des Moines, like Iowa. So many people listening to this are in areas like that. And I was just sort of curious about your perspective of like how to stay, like how to kind of make it work. And you're giving a lot of very specific tips on how to do that. Because a lot of people write to us and say, maybe they'll say our hen house is the vegan in their ear, but then the rest of the week is very depressive and very oppressive. So do you have any sort of words of hope for people like that?
Well, I do think that folks, if you're able to try to create community space where, and whether that starts, I mean, honestly, our potluck started with 10 people coming, like 10 people coming to a potluck, but you do that every month for 5 years and you end up with maybe more. And maybe not, but that's okay. At least then you have 10 people who are your ally, who are thinking like you, which provides you with some comfort. I think trying to organize in your own spaces and to take on some responsibility for creating that space is really don't wait for someone else. That you have the opportunity or power to create something in your backyard, or if you don't have a yard, in a community park or a space, and just putting it out there and seeing if anyone comes and give it a few tries. It's, we've definitely had failures as an organization where no one comes. And those events don't feel great. And you kind of wonder, well, what did we do wrong? What can we do differently? How do we do something different? But I mean, I wouldn't be able to be in this space, I think, without the deep friendships and relationships that I've built with people. And those have come through being active in the community.
I love that. Well, speaking of community spaces, you are also planning on starting a vegan sex shop. Tell us about that. I love it. Tell me your plan.
Yeah, so I need you to think about liberation, decolonization. We're going to liberate our sex shop here. And it does feel a little revolutionary in Iowa based on what I was just telling you about. But these are not new. There are definitely liberated sex shops around the country. I haven't found one that's vegan, so I do think that's a unique spin that we're going to bring here. But it's going to be a space that doesn't only have things to help you with your sexy time or support you with sexy time, but